welcome to FPTV New Releases, where my special guest today is Carol C.S. Okinada. How are you today, mate?
I'm great. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us for this, because we're here to talk about your epic novel, which is published in paperback by Titan Books here in the UK, and you can attach. There is a link attached to this interview, so everybody watching this can buy a copy of Petra'S Ghost, which is an awesome book and your first novel. Am I right?
Yes, it was my first published novel, and and it's got a lot of play. Specifically, it was a semi-finalist for the Goodreads Choice Award for Horror, which I lost to Stephen King, and that was a pretty awesome person to lose to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to lose to anybody in the horror space, it's okay to lose to him. And I'm thinking, before we get into the genesis of the novel, could you give us a flavour of what the novel's about, what the direction is?
Well, it's set on the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a 500-mile pilgrimage that you walk to Santiago. And it's ancient and very Gothic. It probably predates Christianity, but anyway, it's got a lot of Gothic creepiness along the way. And I decided to write a book about a grieving Irishman who is walking that trail, and some very strange and bizarre things begin to happen to him, along with the disappearance of a woman who is also walking. So that's kind of the setting for the book.
Yeah, and you've had some really beautiful and sort of heartwarming reviews for this novel, actually. Actually, you had a great one from a mate of mine, Francesco Dimitri. He said that while every story will take you on a journey, it's a rare one that takes you on a pilgrimage. Petra'S Ghost does that. It's a marvelous tale of love, death, and human spirit.
Yeah, and it was interesting to even think about the genre when it came to this book, because originally it was promoted as literary in North America. But it kept showing up on all these horror lists, and I had said, what about the creepy bits? Because it's pretty creepy, So people obviously noticed the creepy bits, but it's different. Definitely, it's got some in the literary space, and it's a journey about grief, and it's a journey about when you can't go back, you can't change things in life, the cyclical nature of guilt. So, it's got that going on, but it's also got scary things running around in cornfields in Spain. So
yeah, it's a glorious circle. You're covering all the bases. How did you come to write Petra'S Ghost? What was your journey to doing that?
Well, in 2015, I actually walked the Camino de Santiago, and it was an amazing experience, and I don't want to put anyone off of it. I've had a few people who have read the novel and said, wow, I really wanted to walk that the Camino, but now I'm scared to, so don't be scared. But when I was there, a woman did vanish off the trail, and she did not meet a good end. And this story is not about her, but it certainly inspired me, and I thought, I'm going to write something, kind of a psychological suspense with some supernatural thrown in on the Camino. That's where, because everybody comes back, Andrew, and writes a memoir after they walk the Camino. You can't swing a cat without hitting a Camino memoir. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So it was sort of a dark thriller set on the Camino, and it was inspired because that woman wasn't far from my mind when I was walking, because it was, kind of scary.
Yeah, of course. And we were talking before we started rolling, actually, that the pilgrimage, which is such a massive thing to do. I mean, it's the Camino. It's 500 miles. Am I right? It's not. How long did it take you to do it?
About a month. I'm kind of speedy, and then I'm a glutton for punishment, so I continued walking 3 more days to the coast to Finisterre, where they have all the sun god sort of things going on, and archaeological things. So that's what I mean, that while people have been walking this pilgrimage from Christianity for over 1,000 years, it probably predates that. And there was, it's sort of Christianity superimposed against probably a pagan ritual that used to happen.
Yeah, no, of course, like Christmas itself, for example.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what was the law? I take it was walking the Camino is probably not something I'm imagining. You didn't just wake up one day and think, that's what I'm going to do. It must have been with you for some time. So how did it enter your dreams and aspirations? What was the door opener to that?
Well, it's interesting because, you often ask people when you're on the Camino, so why did you come to walk the Camino? And the most frequent answer I got was, I really like to walk, which doesn't sound terribly inspirational, but I love to hike. I live here in Canada where we have a lot of wilderness. I do a lot of hiking and a lot of time in the woods. And I heard about this walk where you could stay in 800-year-old monasteries and sleep on the floor as you went along. And you walked every day, and you walked through some of the most incredible landscapes in Europe. And I thought, man, I would love to do that. So I went on my own, but I didn't end up on my own for long, as Daniel doesn't in the book. You get a posse after a while, but and it was incredible. It's hard work, but it was really, really beautiful and spiritual, I suppose. But you don't have to be into organized religion for it. Do you know what I mean? I rarely actually talked with people who were big into the religious aspect of it, although we all went to the churches. They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, but there's a spiritual aspect to it. In just walking for days like that, you can't help but feel, I don't know, a little bit changed.
Yeah, no, I understand it. One of the three of the words I often see associated with people who've read your book and love it is lyrical, spiritual, and cinematic. And I have the sense, from the book that experience just left such a tremendous imprint upon you that your brain was kind of flooded with imagery. Was it a case of you just had the book bursting out of you at that point, or a form of it that led to the book?
Well, I think the experience itself, right? You're absolutely right. Between the art and the history and the landscapes, like, you come back and you're just overflowing with images. And so you want to convey some of these incredible people, things, artwork, culture that you've seen. So certainly that was part of it. I mean, I've heard it said that the setting in Petra'S Ghost is a character in itself, and it absolutely is. The Camino is a character, and it's a Gothic character. It's been around, since the Middle Ages or before. So it lends itself to that. But yeah, I really need it. And, I don't generally, I do have some other books. They're crime fiction, totally different. I don't tend to be heavy on setting, but in this one, it had to be. And the cinematic aspect is not gone unnoticed. We've had a lot of interest in making this into a film. So I'm not allowed to say anything, but watch this space.
It's funny because I got the sense, actually, somebody who's just passed away, funnily enough, would have made a great movie of this book, and that's Alan Parker. Yeah.
Okay.
So Alan Parker famously worked in a whole bunch of different genres because he flipped from things like, Bugsy Malone to Mississippi Burning to Shoot the Moon, all these kinds of different Fame, all these different movies. But he made a great movie out of the William Hjortsberg novel Falling Angel, Angel Heart. Yeah, I think just that confluence of lyricism and spirituality in cinema that you have. In my mind's eye, somebody like him would be great. I'm sure there are tons of very talented people out there queuing up to adapt it. So fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. We're there's certain pitches going on next week, so we might have.
And how do you find that process? Being there in the middle of that. What is that like to live through people pitching to adaptive work?
I was overwhelmed by how many people and well-known people that were contacting us. Like, it was really, I was shocked. For a first book in Canada, as a Canadian author, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. And then I had a lot of people being very, very nice to me. And telling me how great my book is because they want to be the one to do something with it. And I was pretty, and I continue to be pretty open on what they're doing. I've seen what people have been developing, and I'm really pleased with it. The only thing I didn't want it is to devolve into zombies on the Camino. That's
of course. Yeah.
A Camino apocalypse, and they're not. And I'm told that's not what people are looking for these days anyway. When they want their scares, they want them mixed in with something that does have meaning and something that does have some kind of message beyond, scaring the crap out of them.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. I mean, the reality is that the world in which we live is so scary in and of itself. And it's so, I don't think people just want visceral shocks now. They want stuff that's going to move them at the same time. Which is what you've achieved, of course.
Yeah, we've got enough visual shocks every day. Here in Canada, we only need to look to the south. The joke here is that we don't want to build a wall. We're going to build a privacy hedge so we don't have to look.
Yeah, I completely get that. Yeah, we have our own kind of blonde-haired, silver spoon, megalomaniac jackass running the country. So they seem to be in vogue at the moment. If you want to destroy, the long-standing democracies of the Western world, that's the way to do it. So I think beautiful literature is one of the many perfect antidotes to entertain yourself, and that's certainly what you've achieved. And the final thing I wanted to touch upon is there's quite a few elements from your own life that you've pulled into Petra'S Ghost. I'm specifically thinking of the protagonist.
Yes. Well, it was my first novel, but it was also my first attempt to write from a man's perspective. So I thought I'd choose to pattern it, that character Daniel, after the man I know best, which is my husband, Marcus. And Marcus is Irish. He grew up in Limerick on a dairy farm, just like Daniel. Marcus has never walked the Camino, so this was a fun imagining. And I often said to him, "What would you think if you were walking here and you saw that?" So he was very helpful that way. Even right down to his family farm is exactly where I say it is in Ireland, and even so, yes, I blatantly stole my husband for the book. But I'm told all the time, everybody loves Daniel. That was the feedback I got from the book. Oh boy, we love Daniel, and I say, of course, because I made him my husband, but with all his flaws removed.
Here. So I think that's exactly the right way to do it. Well, yeah. that has been. Thank you for sharing that. That's been truly illuminating. And Carol, thanks so much for sharing this 10 minutes with us.
Well, thank you, Andrew. It's been fun.
It's totally our pleasure. This has been FPTV New Releases, and we've been talking with Carol CSO Canada about her fantastic, phenomenal first novel, amazingly, Petra'S Ghost. And you can order it from the links attached to this interview. So lovely to meet you, mate.
Lovely to meet you, Andrew. Have a great day.
Take care and all the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.